For over 4 decades, a silent predator haunted the suburbs of California. He slipped into homes unnoticed, tore through lives, and vanished without a trace. 50 rapes, 13 murders. He was a ghost, a phantom, until DNA in a discarded coffee cup brought him to justice. This is the story of the Golden State Killer. It began in Visalia, California in 1974. A string of strange burglaries gripped the quiet town. Homes were ransacked, but only small personal items were stolen. Women's underwear, ID photos, trinkets. The intruder left behind a chilling calling card, a sense of psychological violation far worse than the material theft. He was dubbed the Visalia Ransacker. But what no one knew at the time was that these break-ins were just practice. Practice for something far more horrifying. By 1976, the attacks moved north to Sacramento. Women reported being stalked, watched, then attacked in their homes. The masked man would bind his victims. He whispered threats. He would shine a flashlight in their eyes, blinding them as he methodically ransacked the house. Then he raped them. He targeted young women at first, but soon moved on to couples. He forced the men to lie face down, often stacking dishes on their backs and warning them not to move. Then he assaulted their wives or girlfriends nearby. Police called him the East Area Rapist. Panic spread. Gun sales soared. Neighborhood watch groups formed. But despite his growing violence and extensive media coverage, he always got away. In 1978, the horror escalated. Brian and Katie Maggiore, a young couple, were walking their dog in Rancho Cordova when they encountered a prowler. Moments later, they were both shot dead. It was the East Area Rapist's first known murder, and it wouldn't be his last. Soon, attacks began happening hundreds of miles away in Southern California. The press dubbed this new predator the original Night Stalker. Same bindings, same assaults, same cold, calculated rage. Victims were bludgeoned, strangled, murdered in their beds. But no one connected the dots. To the police, these were 3 separate criminals: the Visalia Ransacker, the East Area Rapist, and the original Night Stalker. In reality, it was the same man. By 1986, the attack stopped. The killer simply vanished. No arrests, no suspects, no justice. Detectives retired, evidence grew dusty in storage, and victims were left with unanswered questions and trauma that never healed. But one woman refused to let this monster disappear. Her name was Michelle McNamara, a true crime writer obsessed with the case. She poured through files, mapped out attacks, interviewed survivors, and worked tirelessly to build a profile. She coined the name Golden State Killer. Her blog gained traction, and her investigation reignited public interest. But tragically, Michelle died suddenly in 2016. Her posthumous book, I'll Be Gone in the Dark, would become a bestseller and shine new light on a case that had faded from headlines. While Michelle was building a case in print, law enforcement was building one with science, and they had something she didn't: DNA. Cold case detectives finally linked DNA from multiple crime scenes. That confirmed the East Area Rapist and the original Night Stalker were the same man. But his DNA wasn't in any criminal database. He had never been arrested for a felony. He had no fingerprints on file. It seemed hopeless. Then came a revolutionary idea. Investigators turned to genetic genealogy. They uploaded the Golden State Killer's DNA profile to a public genealogy site called GED Match. They found distant relatives, they built family trees, they narrowed down the list. And then they found him. His name was Joseph James DeAngelo, a former police officer, a Vietnam veteran, a family man, living quietly in a Sacramento suburb, shopping at Walmart, biking around the neighborhood, attending barbecues, laughing with neighbors, pretending to be just another retiree. Investigators followed him. They waited. And one day they got what they needed: a used tissue and a discarded coffee cup. The DNA was a perfect match. On April 24th, 2018, after 44 years, the Golden State Killer was finally arrested. Neighbors were stunned. His family was horrified. But for the victims and their families, a monster finally had a name. In 2020, in a packed Sacramento courtroom, Joseph DeAngelo pleaded guilty to 13 counts of murder and 13 counts of kidnapping. He sat in a wheelchair, frail, quiet, hollow, a shell of the man who had once terrorized the entire state. But the survivors weren't silent. They spoke. They told him of their nightmares, of their marriages that fell apart, of their decades of fear. One woman said, "You didn't win. We did. We survived." D'Angelo whispered one word, "I'm sorry." But no one believed him. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He now resides in protective custody in a California prison. He will die behind bars. The Golden State Killer case changed everything. It exposed how fragmented law enforcement efforts allowed a serial predator to move undetected. It showcased the power of DNA and the promise of genetic genealogy. And it proved the unshakable strength of survivors, investigators, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Michelle McNamara once wrote, "I want to see him squirm. I want to know what makes him tick." In the end, she gave him a name. She gave the world a way to remember him. He was a ghost in the night, a man who thought time would protect him. But science caught up. The truth came out, and the mask came off. This was the Golden State Killer, and he will never walk free again.